All right, wow.
Recording in progress.
Welcome everybody to the December 12th, 2022 Community Recovery Fund Advisory Committee meeting. We do have a quorum. I see there's 4 of us in chambers, and Anne is on video, on Zoom. Hi, Anne. So that's good. Is Veronica here? I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. No. So we have, oh, right, she wasn't going to be here. We knew that. And Veronica's excused. She had to work. So we have 5 out of 6. We really only have one order of business today, unless somebody else wants to bring something up. Let me just give, I do want to say one thing before we start, because really this is the last time probably we're meeting before the full legislature meets to vote on the whole package. And that is that a lot of us have been receiving a lot of emails, and we've had a lot of public comment the last meeting, especially the last legislature meeting. And I just want to remind the public and anyone that's paying attention to this process that we had explicitly said that we really discouraging lobbying. Those were the words we used. We used some other words as well. And I know that I had individual conversations with individual applicants reminding them of this. And so there's people that are organizing letter writing campaigns, and another applicant told me they're going to fill the room on Thursday the 20th. So everyone has the right to do that, but I just want to remind people that that we did actively say we were discouraging lobbying. So that's just a reminder to everybody. Okay, so we have one order of business today. We had another application that had come in late for various reasons. We decided to consider whether to consider it. So just like we did with the previous one that fell into these conditions, we're going to have 2 or 3, we'll have a series of votes today, depending on what happens. The first vote is, should we accept this at all as a late recipient to us? It was filed on time, supposedly, but we did not see it until last week. So the first vote is going to be yes or no, should we consider this application? If we say yes, we'll have a second vote. Should we advance this to the next round for consideration for funding? And then if we say yes to that, the third vote will be how much? This is just like we did with another case, so we're trying to follow the same procedure. I also want to mention before we dive into this that I communicated with the applicant and asked if they wanted to speak to us today, not about the content of the application, but about whether they want to address the situation of why we were coming to see this late. And again, we're just following the same form we did with the other similar application. This applicant said no, it wasn't necessary for them to come and speak. So I just want to let you know they were invited, but they declined. So we will dive in a second, unless there's any other questions or comments before we start. Shauna.
Yeah, I just want to ask MRB what actually has happened to these 2 applicants. And I guess I'm a little concerned because I'm hoping that there aren't others that have been missed.
Yeah, we still aren't sure exactly what happened in cyberspace between their servers and our servers. So we can't say for sure why these got missed. Unfortunately, that means we can't say for 100% sure that nothing else did get missed, but this seems to be the exception as opposed to the rule.
Okay, thank you.
Any other thoughts before we start? Okay. So this application is from Triphammer Arts. It's an application to do some renovations to the performance areas. I think that's a good way to sum it up. They asked for $24,000. They said they would have a minimum acceptance of $8,000. That is the application. So following the same procedures that we did last time, I'm going to move that we consider this Triphammer Arts application to discuss whether or not we should fund it. So that's a motion. Lee is seconding it. Thank you. Discussion about whether we should even consider the application. Deborah.
I just think that we considered the other ones, and we need to be consistent. We don't know what happened and why it wasn't included in the initial batch, so let's at least consider it like all the other ones.
Any other? Shauna?
Yeah, so I actually voted no against the other one, so I'm going to vote no against this one too, to be consistent.
No against funding or no against consideration?
No against consideration.
Okay.
Okay, any other thoughts before we vote? Okay, Anne?
Yes.
Lee? Yes. Shauna?
No.
Deborah?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That is 4-1, so we are accepting, let's call it accepting this application. Next question. Should we advance this application for further consideration of funding? This is the question that we did to all the other 213 applications. So that would be the next vote. Any discussion before we have that vote? Deborah?
I'm going to be recusing myself from this vote because I know the owners of Trip Hammer Arts and have a personal relationship with them. I do want to say that I ran into them on Saturday or over the weekend, and they expressed their appreciation for the fact that we were willing to consider their application. They seemed very understanding about our priorities. But they said that they felt that you had handled it, Dan, in a very considerate and courteous way, and they appreciated it. So just wanted to let you know.
Thank you. That's nice to hear. Any other discussion before we vote? Okay, so this is whether or not to fund it, and we're going to have a vote. Ann Corman?
No.
Lee? Shauna?
No.
Deborah?
Abstain.
And I'm a no, so that's 0 yeses, 4 noes, 1 abstention. So that fails.
Was Lee the second there, Dan? You
Oh.
moved it, and then we're just assuming that we did it the same way?
Yes.
Okay.
Nods on it. Thanks for checking me on that. Okay, well then that concludes the business that we had on the agenda. Is there any last business before we adjourn? Deborah?
Yeah, I just want to say, because I got flooded with emails. To members of the public, I understand that y'all have particular organizations and charities and initiatives that you're very much in support of. There are lots of them in the community. And many, many of them contributed to the 5-to-1 ratio of asks versus funds that we have in this program, which puts us in a position of having to say no to a lot of really worthwhile things. I hope that people out there can accept the fact that although you, as members of the community, have particular initiatives that you support, we, as legislators and as members of this committee, have to weigh and balance the various initiatives that we consider for a grant against all the other ones. It doesn't mean that your particular initiative is not worthwhile. It doesn't mean we're turning a blind eye to all the good that you do. It just means that at this particular moment in time in our community, there are needs that may be greater than the needs of your particular charity, and I'm sorry to say that's just the way it is. Thank you.
Any other business to take care of before we adjourn? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.